So let us briefly delve into the foul and pestilent congregation of vapours.
The audience is looking at a picture of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Sorry about that. We've been having such a lovely morning, haven't we? Here, in September 2016, we are seeing one of the strangest points in world politics, I think, that's ever happened. You can see it in the candidates, of course. On the one hand, we've got this bizarre, self-aggrandizing businessman, and on the other, a deeply corrupt and embittered imperial agent. Both ignoble, both reflective of this giant disavowal of humanity, giving us exactly what we need. Exactly. It is a wake-up call, all the people who have happily voted Democrat and thought that was a good idea, a good dream, and all the people who voted Conservative and thought that was a good idea, Liberal, Republican, whatever you want to call it. In England, we call it Labour and Conservative, as it has been. It's hard to even do that with these guys. And then perhaps you look back, and now that a lot of information comes out about campaigns and all the skullduggery, even the good old guys that we thought were something back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, no. I don't think so. I think they were just like that. It's just that now the veil has gone, and you see in the truth of it, and it's really tough, especially people who have campaigned and dreamt deeply in these realms. Now, again, from the esoteric angle, this is more comical than it is scary, frankly. The old order is failing, and this is a very clear marker of it, very clear. This is what failure looks like. Now, the individuals or whatever, I've done this before, and with two other different people, and I bloody met one of them. And they were all right. So it's not really about the man and the woman as such. I haven't met either of them. I don't know them, but I'm just guessing. And of course, you get my point here. But it's never really personal. We'll come to that later. It's never really personal. But the idea that these are somehow our great, honourable men and women who can represent us is a disgrace. Beyond a joke. And we could pick any images here. I'm picking on these two. But this stronger together image is so full of wrongness on so many levels. I don't know where to begin. And the point of showing this, again, is not just to poke fun at Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine, but just to note for ourselves, as you already know, but it's good to say it out loud, millions and millions of Americans and Europeans and whatever else, lots of our friends and family think this is okay because they're deep in the dream, deep, deep, deep in the dream. And so, as we said before, remember when I said truth takes you outward? Truth is a gateway out of the dream, which is hard because you think, well, hang on a second. If it's not that, what the hell is it? Libertarian? Greens? Go and live with Neil's militia friends in the desert? What is it? Camp at Omega? Stay here forever? Hide? What is it? What the hell else am I supposed to do? All those people who've fought so hard for the vote, like me and my sister were just driving in the car the other day, and we were reflecting upon people like Emily Pankhurst and stuff who were chaining themselves to the railings so women could get the bloody vote. You know, what do you do? Is it wrong to not vote? What do you do? It is a test, this. It's like a vexed question. And in England, you often hear this, well, your grandfather fought in the war for you to vote, young man. You should bloody go to that ballot box. And you think, oh, gosh, that sounds kind of serious. Just to go, all right, there we go. You know, when the Brexit came to England, where they said, you know, do you want to be part of Europe? And they were like, fuck no. It was a bit of a surprise to people, and they wheeled out loads of celebrities who, I shan't go through the names of them, who were like Clueless. Totally clueless. And the same thing with this. And they had like Barbara Streisand raising money. George Clooney was raising money for this. Justin Timberlake was there raising money for this. Loads and loads and loads of people. And even Joss Whedon, who I like, is doing anti-Trump campaigns. And he's getting like Robert Downey Jr. He's involved in all this. So people that we might enjoy as entertainers, they're deep in the dream. They don't know what's going on, I'll tell you that for nothing. They're not like secret Illuminist, Kabbalist conspirators. They're not. They're ignorant. And if you're not aware, just for your own personal sort of side project, quite of what the story is with the Clintons, if you've never seen a documentary called The Clinton Chronicles, which is on YouTube, you need to watch it because it's really good. And the thing with the Clintons is, because of what happened from the 80s right till today, there's so many people implicated in the Clintons' power base and the Clinton Foundation that they just can't derail it. Because if she goes, there's about 250 major names that also go. So if you're just wondering it's so obviously wrong, why didn't Comey indict her and all that stuff, it's because of the people who are implicated. And that again is part of empire, part of the end of empire. That finally there is a trail, a paper trail, a money trail, a breadcrumb trail of responsibility that's going to bring this all down. And so in England, the Brexit, I mean, you could say it's hugely fake or this or that. And whether the vote was real or unreal and whether it's some grand conspiracy, a double bluff, whatever, the point to me is that a lot of good English men and women who I know are wonderful people said, you know what, Europe is bullshit, isn't it? The whole idea of this giant club all getting together and being happy and trading on equal footing, and it's garbage. And not only that, but the European laws are dictating what happens in local councils in England. As you'd imagine, it was originally the older, mature, conservative-leaning people who felt like that. But what the Brexit did is force people to look at it and go, you know what, that is kind of true. And if you look into the power base in Europe, in Brussels, it is deeply corrupt, as bad as that. And it's not anything to do with trade, it's to do with control. My point is that the Brexit made everyone seriously look at that. Nothing to do with if we like France or Italy or Germany. Of course we do. They're a great place. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with admitting that the story is false. But the most shocking part of this whole presidential race thing, for me, has been the massive deterioration of the media. The degree of media bias has been colossal. I've never, ever seen anything like it. Incredible, incredible bias. No more sort of hiding behind this garment of unprejudiced, impartial stuff. That's gone. It's just wall-to-wall deception. Horrible, horrible distortions all over. And Facebook and Google caught editing out right-wing content in favor of left-wing content. And I've been tracking this kind of closely. There's a few of my colleagues who are really into this. All of these organizations have been, in my humble opinion, hopelessly compromised, beyond repair. Not all the reporters, there's some good men and women, of course, doing some interesting things, just like there is in the CIA or FBI or MI6, there is. But the organization, on the whole, is dead, it's gone. So it's the executive administration, the bosses, what stories to raise or what to bury. No impartiality at all willingly devoting themselves to upholding the dreams, the illusions of empire. And they all denied it until it was forced, until people looked at it and they, we'll have to have a special committee to look at that and examine different pathways. Whatever. What a load of crap. What a load of bullshit. And many of these organizations, many of these outfits, worse than LeftWing Bias, they have purposefully inflamed gender and racial issues to the point of, in my view, inciting hatred. The media incites more racial hatred and more homophobia than any people I've ever met in my life, even the most dumbasses. don't really feel that way when you push them, when you listen, when you learn. The media are the arm of imperial conditioning. Dreadful, immoral, cannot be trusted, important to know. I also want to be clear on this. Let's say liberalism and conservatism are things we can see here. And let's just note down some of the main tenets, T-E-N-E-T-S. People very often say tenets mistakenly, don't they? The tenets of liberalism: progressive, multicultural, ethical, outside observance into people's affairs. Crime is socio-economic. That's what it's from. Big government, equality, help those who do not help themselves, and science rules. Right? Let's say, generally, that's kind of it. And conservatism is the opposite of those things. Traditional, nationalistic, not ethical, but moral. And they don't want outside observance, they want non-interference. Crime is from bad character. Small government, not equality, because there isn't any, but opportunity. Help those who help themselves, and God rules, right? Now, both of those things are branches of empire. It is an impossible setup, this, for one very simple reason. They pick things in each category that are really good, and they put things in other categories that are really stupid. And there isn't one solution. You can't be a wholehearted spiritual human and be a liberal or a conservative, in my view. There are things from each that are good. So if you think, like myself, God rules, oh good, I'll be a conservative then. Great, small government. Yeah, I like small government. I must be a conservative. Non-interference, hell yeah. I don't want anyone interfering with anything I do. Yeah, I must be a conservative. Oh, hang on a minute. Progressive, I'm progressive. Hang on a second, science is kind of important, and some people cannot help themselves, and I'm happy to help them. Wait a minute, there's things in both camps here. This is confusing. But they force you into a bad setup, and it doesn't matter which you choose. And the sad thing about this is we're not too bad. We're mostly of a certain age upwards in here. There's not many kids and teenagers or whatever. Some young people, gladly. The problem is in the schools, they're being forced to that. Not because of political reasons, for imperial reasons, to liberalism. And then, of course, you get other kind of schools where they break away from that, and it's like fundamentalist Christian schools, creationism, and they go that way. And so they're forcing them into two different directions. But whichever direction you choose, the result is this. Little stormtroopers of empire, conditioning humans to be good imperial citizens. But that is what I see. It doesn't matter which side you choose. Empire used the ridiculous Bush family for years and years of havoc, and then the ridiculous Clinton family, and then the ridiculous Obama family for years and years and years. Again, not the individuals, not interested in that. Just the office they keep. No difference. Sometimes it's international divide and social chaos, and sometimes they mess it up abroad. Sometimes at home. Divide at home. It's all the same, just as long as you choose a side. When you polarize to empire's choices, one way or the other, you fail, you disavow. And believe me, if you've been brought up with liberal or conservative stuff, you have to take a look at that. It's a very personal choice. You have to take a look at it. Here's my proposal to you. What if, we go back to our diagram here, what if we synthesize and fuse some of these apparent opposites? What is it to be progressive and traditional? What is it to be multicultural and monocultural at times? That can be good. What is ethical and moral? What is it to have things observed well and not need things observed at all? Let's say there's a human way of doing that, a natural pathway. Maturing. Don't need traditional, don't need progressive. Maturing, traditional and evolutionary. Natural, virtuous, sovereign, fellowship. When there's fellowship, wrongdoing virtually disappears. Crime, in a sense, is a result of bad education, bad parenting, and that creates all kinds of problems, regardless of the money. Rich kids, poor kids, it doesn't matter. The kid's lost after 7 if they've not had the right thing before that time. Wise elders in local leadership. If there's lots of people, there's a lot of them. If there's a few people, there's only a few in that community. Equity. Everyone has the free will to excel. Everyone. Strength and compassion. It is good to help people who help themselves. It is an old trick of empire to create a massive, dependent substrata of society, which the last 8 years have definitely done. Empire, remember, empire. A massive trick, and they do it all over Eastern Europe all the time. They've been doing it for a long time, thousands of years in Europe. It's nothing new. There are some people, a very small proportion, who cannot help themselves. And as spiritual men and women, it is our obligation to offer assistance when necessary. Of course it is. But that's a tiny number, tiny. And spiritual knowledge, inner and outer technology. So let us decompress with some beauty.